Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get pre-orders of all the upcoming Force of Will sets, as well as releases of previous sets after they come out. TCGprime.com with over 100,000 Force of Will singles, as well as out-of-print boxes from the past, and TCG accessories, as well as FOWlibrary.com, a wonderful resource for deck lists, article discussions, and more. Check them out at FOWlibrary.com, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer patrons Shukong Fu, Vite Ramen, and Maxime Van He. Thank you for your support. Class is in session.
Hey there, rulers. Welcome back to another deck profile with yours truly, Paul Reisman. Today we're going to be taking a look at Jake Dolan's Yggdrasil Malefic Verdant Tree list that I played in the video where I was playing Blue Fox. Yggdrasil is kind of a crazy deck. It's got some interesting things. I know some folks are huge fans of Dark Tree or Tree 2, however you talk about it. But this is probably one of the pivotal control decks. Very rogue, but very interesting because of how it operates. So without too much further ado, let's just get right into what the ruler does. So Yggdrasil 2, Malefic Verdant Tree. This ruler has Energize for green, which is pretty standard at this point. So the good thing about Yggdrasil is that it prevents all damage that is done to you, not life loss, damage. So think somebody doing a thunder targeting you and dealing you damage. Yggdrasil will prevent that, and then for every 100 damage, you take one card from the top of your deck and remove it from the game. Players also cannot gain life, so don't try. And then for 1 green and 1 black and tapping it, you can bring out a Machina, King of Accursed Machines, Rezard, King of the Damned, Amalgus, King of Black Flame, or Arla, Demonic Flying Ace from your RFG and put it into the field. At this point, nobody plays Melgus or Arla. Other cards have higher utility, like Machina and Rezard, but there's only one of each in this deck, so we'll get into that as we talk about it. And I'm just going to be completely transparent. I'm not a huge fan of Dark Tree, so in terms of like piloting the deck, it's not something that I'm super insightful on, but I have played against it, and I know what the deck can do from that standpoint, so we'll talk about it in that sense. So one of the new tools that Tree 2 got is Tisiphone Avenging Fury. It has Natural Pierce, and it has an Enter effect, where as this card enters the field, choose a number that is equal to 3,000 or less. In multiples of 100, the attack and defense of this card become that. So that is as this card is entering the field effect, it is not the enter, but when the enter does go on the chase, it will deal damage to you equal to its attack. So Dark Tree prevents any damage that would be done to you. So Tisiphone is essentially put half of your deck on the RFG. It is super good for Dark Tree in every single way, and it's a 2-drop, so that's super helpful as well. This is one of the more threatening cards that the deck has. It's also a Cthulhu, which means you can use Umar at Ta-will, Keymaster of the Outer World, to help pay for it a little bit. This is a card you can play from your RFG, and if you want to get really funny, awaken it and steal some stuff from your opponent if you want to. Umar is really good for that, and it's mostly there to make Tisiphone cheaper, as well as play free Phantasmal Ascendance. This card is also super good, but we'll talk about that in just a second. One of the more classic cards that you would run with Yggdrasil is Velsevarian Apparition. It is a 4/4 that just enters, and you have a 4/4. I'm personally not a huge fan of this. If I were going to make a Dark Tree, I probably would not play this, but if you're just playing at locals or casually, this is a really cheap card. It's a 4/4 that comes in for free, so just play it. Go for it. Of course, you have 4 Lorite. You are a green ruler, and you are running a green control deck, so Lorite seems really good. Also, you're running 60 cards, so play as many copies as makes sense. Phantasmal Ascendant is here. It's got quick cast. It can give you an extra stone, which for control decks is really nifty. He's pairing this up with the Memoria of Reincarnation, so if it leaves the field, you draw a card, which is a really good way of just getting a few extra cards in, a few extra draws. Allosaurus, the Invader of God's City, in this deck. If you've never heard of this card, this is single-handedly one of the best cards that has been printed for Dark Tree. So you may pay 1 less to play this card for each card in your removed area. Enter, put a card from your RFG into your hand so it can buy back something from the RFG. But the most important effect on this card is 0. Reveal this card from your hand, put it on top of your deck or in your graveyard, or remove it from the game. So with this card, there is no way your opponent will be able to deck out. So life loss is the way to beat Tree. If your deck does not have access to life loss, you are probably going to lose to Tree because of this card. So there was a question on the video as to how this card interacts with Dark Tree. So you pay 0, reveal it from your hand. If your opponent tries to lowrite it or stop the effect, it's still in your hand. It just stops the activate effect on the chase. It doesn't actually get rid of the card. So this card just stays in your hand. You can just do this infinitely. Bait out all of their lowrites, everything. And then you still won't deck out. So it's kind of funny that Allosaurus is just that broken in this deck. But it's here. So if your deck does not have a way to make your opponent's life 0, Allosaurus is basically their key to just winning. I mentioned that there's 1 Machina in the deck. This is just a good way for you to produce will and fix. So it's really just there for utility. But there's also a Rezard. You can remove a target card in a graveyard from the game, and then it just becomes a big beat stick that you can bring back again and again and again. So here he is. 4 Horn of the Sacred Beast, another one of the cards that made Dark Tree just really, really good as a rogue control deck. Between Horn and Allosaurus, I think Yggdrasil is pretty much at full power at this point. Although I think it is winning a more decisive win condition, so I think that might be part of the problem here. But Horn of the Sacred Beast, you banish the card to target a player. They shuffle their graveyard back into their deck and or stone deck. Horn of the Sacred Beast loops itself, and because there's 4 of it, you are definitely going to see it. If not in your RFG, you are going to hard draw it. Essence of Athena's Power is another recent addition. This is basically a card that says remove your whole graveyard or put your RFG back into your graveyard. That tool on its own allows you to do some pretty nutty things. Especially if you're running the 7 Olympians version, which hopefully I will get on this channel someday. But this card is really powerful in the sense that it can just remove everything from your graveyard in order for you to like replay your Umirs, to play Memory of Disappearance to buy it back. There's just a lot going on with this card, and I think it's stronger potentially than Death Sights. That's why they're playing it now. It's a whole graveyard removal all at once. So that's here. Light of Raisin Revive. This is a very good multimodal spell. I know this is one of Jeremy's favorites from Alice Origin Cluster. You can remove a target non-J ruler, non-magic stone with total cost 3 or less from the game. Or you can put target Resonator with total cost 3 or less from your removed area into the field. Or you can search your deck for a Light Regalia and put it into your hand. So you are mostly using this card for its removal mode, but specifically mostly for its ability to fetch a 3-drop from the RFG, such as your Tisiphone. That's kind of important to bring out. Although I'm thinking that would not interact well, so I'm not entirely sure how that would work. But you can also bring out things like your Phantasmal Ascendant, your Machina, your Rezard. There are just tons of things in here that the Light of Raisin Revive allows you to just pluck out. Wind of Zeus. At this point, Jake says he does not have number 13, so he's playing Wind of Zeus. It's a normal. If you are new to the game, pick this card up and use it to your heart's content. This is a cancel that does not cancel. It removes target spell on the chase from the game. So it can get around things that say, you cannot cancel this card. Well, I'm not canceling it. I'm removing it from the chase, from the game. So this card is super funny in that way. And I love it. Memory of Disappearance. This is just buy back a card from the RFG. It's really helpful. You can use Release. I think there's one other card that we have access to that does this as well, but Memory of Disappearance is very good for that. Farrier Spell, you're a control deck. Dante enters the Game of Gods. You don't need your life so much, so why not just draw 3 cards instead? It seems pretty good. Or if you're trying to go for a game, get those beautiful keywords in that +4/+4. That's another good way of doing it. So Jake is playing 3 Blessing of Yggdrasil. The most I saw him using this card for was to grab his Ragnarok's Fiery Stone. I'm not sure what that did. I think he was just looking for ways to mana ramp, and this was just a good way for him to say I don't have to tap my Yggdrasil in case I want to bring out my Rezard or my Machina. I mean, there's synergy there. I don't know necessarily I would do that and if I were to build this deck, but it's here. And it was useful, I gotta say. When I played against him, it was very useful. And then, of course, for Castle of Asmodeus, this is another one of the newer support from the Asmodeus ruler. And when it's removed from the game, it just comes into the field. It's a static +2/+2. And it's a normal, so it's not hard to get. And as far as I know, Jake was getting back into the game, so he was kind of just putting this stuff together with what he could grab at the time, and he's building up his collection again. So he said, why not put in Castle of Asmodeus? It makes my stuff bigger, and I completely agree. So now we'll go into the stone deck here. 4 Magic Stone of Moonshade. Of course, you want, I mean, you can just pay life all day long. You have 60 life. Well, you have 4,000 life, but you will take no damage. So you essentially have 60 life, but you really have, yeah, it's confusing. Anyway, you're not using your life, so we might as well pay into it for any of the will that you need. Please excuse my dog as we go into 3 Black Silence. These are the basic colors that Yggdrasil plays, even though it's mostly a green ruler. Memory of Reincarnation. Again, this card is super helpful with Phantasmal Ascendant. Because if that card goes away at the end of the turn, you essentially net a card. So you got a body on field, plus you drew a card, which is really nice. And then you had a free stone. So that interaction is really strong. And then, of course, the one Ragnarok's Fiery Stone to wrap things all up. And we already talked about that. So, guys, let me know what you think about Jake's Tree 2. Down in the comment section down below. Is this ruler interesting to you? Are you newer to the game? Tree 2 is probably one of the funniest decks to play up against because it changes the way you think about the game. But it's also a very fun deck to play, so I've heard. Anyway, guys, this has been Paul. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that bell. And until next time, this has been Paul, signing off.